dark throne to Dr. Shrinker. Buckle up. Things are about to get heavy. This is the Metal Podcast. Let's rock and roll.
And welcome to another episode of the Metal Podcast, the show that is pretty much a music show, but we were not smart enough to have a better name. I am AC, and I am joined by the world's greatest sidekick this side of Gotham. DJ, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm excellent. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. And we are joined by another special guest from the great white north, Michael J. Miller. How are you doing?
I'm happening, man. Doing great. Thank you.
So I want to ask you something that I think we need to ask more guests this. What have you been listening to lately?
Metal and a lot of my own music as well, but rock music.
Okay, like classic stuff or like current artists?
Believe it or not, mostly classic stuff. Something I tuned into a couple nights ago was the final Kiss show in New York City. Had to see that. That's like the ultimate production ever. My curiosity dragged me there. It was great. I do listen to some current music, and some of it's really good. And then I've got a few variables on what I think about some other things. In a nutshell, I'll say that metal, in the long run, the musicianship is right up there. I mean, great drums, great guitar playing, pretty cool, really good songwriting. But in some cases, I don't understand how the musicians would let such bad vocals be on top of their music. People go, that's really not for me. So
I think I have an answer for that. I think that really started with Lemmy and people trying to have the gruff Lemmy vocals, but Lemmy wasn't. That's what I think, because that wasn't Lemmy doing a voice. That was just how he sang, because he had kind of a gruffer, almost like an old man voice. Like even when he was a young man, like he sounded the same for 40 years. And I think from there it went to the band Venom, and then to Celtic Frost, and then Death and Possessed, and then just the whole genre of death metal was created. Like it went all down the line. Do you follow Napalm Death at all, or did you ever?
I've listened to them, yeah.
So there was an interview with them on their second album, and this was I don't remember the first singer's name, but the second singer was a guy named Lee Dorian, who went on to form the doom metal band Cathedral, which is a good band. Yeah, and he is a good singer, but he didn't sing like how he does when he was in Napalm Death. He was like, rah, 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 rah. And someone said, why do you sing like that? And he said, well, with the music as aggressive and as fast as it is, I just don't see another way to sing. And I was like, you know what, that's a good point. Because you hear a lot of those bands like Cannibal Corpse or Nile.
Yeah.
And I cannot picture Bruce Dickinson singing to any of like it would
like the death metal bands.
Yeah, it would be like really jarring, and it would almost sound like a parody. So I think it's just the way to sing to that type of music. And I understand people not liking it, because when you have all these, like when you have Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson, or
Tim the Ripper Owens,
Tim Owens,
yeah,
like when you have just like these great singers. I understand that, like the contrast, it is night and day, but it's just, to me, it's just like another step. And I think a lot of that started with the thrash metal, where these people, they just needed a singer. So a lot of people just stepped up. Like Metallica wanted John Bush from Armored Saint to sing for them, and Dave Mustaine wanted I can't remember his name, the guy from Diamond Head. He wanted them to sing for Megadeth. And a lot of these bands, they couldn't get the singers they wanted. They said, well, we have a deadline. Like, we got a show coming up. Like, all right, whatever, I'll sing. And then just the vocals just got sloppier and sloppier. But I think it worked for a lot of the music. But it definitely is a lost art, that like the operatic, dramatic, like your Dios and your Bruce Dickinsons.
Yeah. Like a band like Iron Maiden, I don't think they would even allow Bruce Dickinson to sound like that for very much of a song. Even if he tried it in a little bit, they may say, "Oh, it's okay here, Bruce, but let's get back to some real singing."
Well,
Yeah,
Rob Halford started doing a few
Yeah,
growls live. It was very interesting.
I've
And he,
noticed that as well. Yes,
yeah, and that might have been just because he's getting older and it's harder for him to maintain, that high
just hit
pitched
those highs. Yeah.
squeals. Yeah, so that might be his cope, but
I
it did.
act,
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually when I heard him putting in those "brrs" and whatever, I thought, well, it's maybe to relate to the younger crowd that is familiar with that. So let's make the sounds that they know. Even more than his classic screams. They probably like the "brr."
That's very possible. I never thought about that, but the times when he started doing that, that was when they started pushing all these bands that I really don't like. It's like this weird mix between like death metal and new metal where they don't sound like death metal. If you, because you probably don't like the vocals, but I'm sure you appreciate all the musicianship
For
of
sure.
just, but you had these bands that didn't quite understand the music angle of those bands, and then they would have these singers that wouldn't just growl, but they would make these like stupid like caveman sounds. They'd be like, literally they go like like it sounded like a dog being strangled. But that
Yeah.
was
Gosh.
that was pushed around like 2003, 4, 5, 6, and that's when Halford came back to Priest, and that's when he started doing that. So that it's possible that someone just said, "Hey, this is what the kids are liking." So throw a couple of those in there, Rob.
Huh. Well, at least he didn't go as far as Job for a Cowboy.
That's the band exactly that I was thinking of that
That's
does that.
funny.
The
That's
animal
Oh.
sounds.
yes.
I wonder what the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds would think of that.
They're like these are the real pet sounds. We got it all
Yeah.
wrong. Do you do
Oh my
you do you agree that Pet Sounds is one of the greatest albums of all time?
It's very close, yeah.
Okay.
But I can also see how Brian Wilson wound up in a sandbox after listening to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Okay.
Mm.
What's your favorite album?
I probably have to say that's one of them.
Sergeant
Sergeant Pepper.
Pepper's? Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Not Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
Top
Sergeant
f-
Pepper.
top five. Just off the top of your head. This no final answer. You're allowed wiggle room if tomorrow someone asks you. What do you got?
Oh, oh, geez. Okay. Master of Reality, Black Sabbath.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Judas Priest, British Steel.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
I'd say Kiss, Destroyer, believe it or not.
I believe it.
And yeah. um, Hard Day's Night, can't forget about that. The Beatles. Oh, there's two Beatles albums I mentioned.
Two Beatles albums. I see you
I
like the
get
Beatles.
Yeah, they really made rock and roll change. I've got a lot to say about the Beatles and what they did for music. But album number 5, we can't forget about Iron Maiden. So like Number of the Beast.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I've said this before. I'll keep harping on it just so everyone gets it. All music is subjective. I
Yeah.
think Iron Maiden is as close as you can possibly get to, like, if there were a scientific formula to measure the best as far as a best rock and roll band of all time. As far as lyrics, songwriting, musicianship, performance, I don't think you can get much better as far as everyone at the top of their game for many years. Like
Mhm.
they consistently turned out. I think the only Maiden albums that I struggle to listen to are uh, Fear of the Dark and the two Blaze Bailey albums, but
Yeah.
none of those albums have bad songs. They just don't have good Maiden songs.
Right.
Like,
It's I can see them having a bit of difficulty maintaining that same sort of standard and and character all the way through. It's bound to have its ups and downs throughout a career of their length, especially when you change a singer from no Bruce Dickinson to Blaze Bailey. And not to blame him for the songs, but the songwriting did seem to change too at the same time.
Oh
The
yeah.
singer.
Oh yeah. That I think that's the ultimate problem with those two albums was that they just don't sound like the other ones. Because even if you had Blaze Bailey singing on Somewhere in Time, like it would still sound like a good album. Just it would be like, it's kind of missing Bruce Dickinson, but all these songs are really good. Because Blaze Bailey he's a good singer, but you know, Bruce Dickinson and Rob Halford are probably the all-time great metal singers.
Yeah, I agree. I got to see Blaze Bailey with a solo group just last year. Came through town, and he had a good, strong act. But the funniest thing about it was um, some of the most memorable moments of his music, where he started to go into some vocal chants that were very maidenish. Oh, oh, stuff like that. I was going, wow, that was just like Maiden, even though it was one of his songs. Unless it was a Maiden song, I didn't know.
Wow.
There may have been stuff that he wrote with them that they just left off the album. Like
Oh, sure.
how often you write 3, 4, 5 songs and you're like, this can't make the album, and then you just don't know what to do with them. Like
Yeah.
you've done that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, there's lots of songs sitting there that I don't know if it's worth spending the time on them, because there may be a better song to spend the time on to put on the album.
Wow. And Michael, you had a pretty busy 2023 with you came out with an album, the instrumental album. I think the album's just called Instrumental by MJM, and you released the song with Tim Ripper Owens, right? The Live It Up, or how did that come about? Am I getting that right? Or
well, the Live It Up, great song.
yes,
It's been released as an MJM song right now without Tim Ripper Owens on it yet. The version with Tim Ripper Owens is coming out this month. We're still mixing it right now.
Wow, yeah, and
sorry,
go ahead.
It actually should have been done this week. Brave Words magazine is waiting to do an interview with me about the song and working with Tim Ripper. But I told them to wait until I give them the actual mastered version. So the producer's at the studio right now working on the final tweaking of the mix so we can master it and release it.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming out this month.
Yeah, and I checked out the instrumental album. I'll be honest, I don't usually like, like it's hard to say. It's like
he likes vocals. He likes vocals.
But honestly, this was the best instrumental album I've ever heard, because I've listened to Marty Friedman stuff. I've listened to even like Chris Poland stuff, and this, like, it's thrashy too, especially the chase with the double bass. Like, and I mean, each song I listened to, Resurrection, Medicine Ball, Ascension. I mean, and each song is different. It's almost like you have like really cool guitar effects, incredible playing, cool riffs. It was very different, where you don't even notice that there's not vocals, and it doesn't, like, I really enjoyed it. Like I and part of like what we've been talking about, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, is that AI, artificial intelligence, can't replicate what you do, and the way to stay ahead of it is being better than the AI, and you certainly do that. It's amazing. And I was a drummer, so I can more hear like good drummers and stuff, but I can tell, like, as a guitarist, you got to be one of the best, and you are Canada's best known secret. And I think that's kind of the wrong way to put it. I think it's a travesty. I want everyone to know your music, to be honest, because I was blown away, and it was incredible to listen to, and each song was better than the next. And it was actually interesting too with the last song on the record, the dark/meltdown with
Yeah.
the 2 minutes of JFK's speech, which you're from Canada. So how did, it was the classic, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country,
Yeah.
But it just, I loved it, man. Like I love every part of it. It was amazing. So congratulations on that.
Well, that's really, really very nice of you to say that. I really appreciate hearing that from you guys. I I was really glad to put that collection of our material together from the various albums and listen to it as a whole. When we finally got the whole thing put together, I put it in my vehicle and went for a 1 hour cruise down the highway and just it was cruising music, I just put it on and I was on a trip with that music while I was flying down the highway. It was a great buzz, a great way to get into it too. No distractions, just the music. And I thought to myself, geez, that's me. I'm digging it like some other band.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I went to sleep an hour later than I intended to last night.
Oh, great.
Wow. It was,
kept you up.
and now I got to listen to it in my car because that you just gave me an idea because it is cruising music, but it's really freaking good.
Stay away from the surface streets. You don't want to go 80 on those ones.
Right.
Yeah, it's once you get on the highway, let her rip.
There you go.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious what got you into playing guitar and composing because you're a music composer, recording artist, MJM, Michael J. Miller Band. I mean, are you associated with anything else as well? I guess I asked you a little too many questions.
Well, I can answer them all. I should probably go from the most recent question. I have a history with other recording acts. My first recording act was one of the heavier bands that Canada has had. We were called Rapid Tears, and we put out the Honestly album and then Cry for Mercy, and we were working on our third album, and then things became difficult, and the band kind of started separating, and then the singer left for Sweden, and that kind of did it. But geez, just last year, a new book was put out about the Toronto metal scene, and it was called Eve of Darkness. Here, I have it right here.
Okay.
And, this is the book.
Oh, nice.
Eve of
It's a
Darkness.
big one.
Yeah, it's a big one, and it's really cool because Rapid Tears there's a couple little clips of Motorhead and Iron Maiden in here, even though they're not from Toronto. But then the first feature is Rapid Tears. That's me a long time.
Way.
Hey,
Yeah.
look
Heck
at
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and the other half of that picture is right here. There's the rest.
That's awesome.
But and then there's the rest of the book after Rapid Tears. So yeah, they put us at the front of the book and gave it some due accountability. It's great. And after Rapid Tears, then I started a group called Adrenaline, and we had a German record deal, and we put out the album Dedicated, which is a very solid album. And it sold a lot in Europe. It never got an American deal, which is pretty weird.
That is weird.
It
It's
is weird.
Long Island Records, right?
That's correct. Long Island
Which is
Records.
funny that it's a German.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Long
it's
Island
like, you
from,
think
from New York.
You know,
like,
exactly.
yeah,
I
I can
had to
never
double
figure
take that. I wanted to ask you about that because I did see that.
Well, I think they before they folded, they changed their label name to Maple. Maple Records.
That's an exciting name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you think of that leaf.
I do.
Excellent. No, so
Yeah. Oh,
what-
geez. A few other questions I didn't get around to.
Oh no, you're okay. Yeah, sorry.
I almost forgot what they were.
So did DJ.
What made me start playing guitar? Well, it's pretty funny. My whole family was musical. My dad was in the Air Force the during the war. He was in the Air Force and he played in the Air Force band,
No
saxophone
way.
and clarinet. And so when I was a little kid growing up, he'd get out the saxophone and or clarinet and play it. And my mother played piano. My sister played piano. My oldest brother didn't play an instrument, but listened. He listened to music all the time, and every week he would come home with a new single. Back in those days, that's what people did. They went to the record store and bought the hottest single of the week. So I got to hear the A and the B side of every hot song that was coming out. So I was constantly getting an influence from new cool music as I was a little tyke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, she also played piano too. So, oh, and my other brother, he played guitar, and he had a Fender Stratocaster, but all I could do is kind of like boink on the strings. I couldn't press a note or anything. I didn't know what to do. But at the age of 9, my mother asked me if I wanted to learn guitar, and I said sure. And I started taking lessons. I think I had a good teacher at that point, and I took lessons for a couple of years, and then I dropped out of lessons, but I kept playing my guitar because I started figuring out stuff on my own. And the guitar lessons at that point seemed to be very sight reading based, and that was kind of turning me off. And I was wanting to learn these songs, and I started figuring them out. And at the same time, I woke up one morning as a kid and I was singing a song in my head. And I thought, well, what is this? Try and figure it out. And I grabbed my guitar. I mean, I'm talking 10, 11 years old. I grabbed my guitar and I went boink, boink, or hit this chord, that chord. No, that's not the right one. I tried to find the chords and I realized that songs come from up here. And you just have to, the more you know your instrument, you get better at it as you go. That was as a little kid, right? But I kind of learned right from there that hey, I've got ideas, and if I can figure out how to play them, I'll be writing my own songs. And that started to become a normal way that I thought every day. I would always pretty well every day get ideas, riffs. Sometimes I would get them. That's the other half too. Sometimes I would get riffs, and I still do on when I'm playing my guitar. All of a sudden, something really cool will start rolling off my fingers, and I'll have to grab my cell phone and hit the little voice recorder to capture that idea, right? So, yeah, I noticed at an early age I got ideas for songs, and I was learning how to turn them into real 3 or 4 minute songs, or however long they wind up being, right? Progressive or commercial. So, and at the same time, there were great guitar players that were changing the style of rock music. Example, we'll take note that maybe the first time I heard a real distorted guitar was in like Helter Skelter or Revolution by the Beatles. But then after that, there's Jimi Hendrix all of a sudden screaming on the guitar. I certainly had to listen to that. And man, that Are You Experienced album was that was a real revolution in rock music, right? And so songs like that. And then I remember the Cream, a song "Sunshine of Your Love." My sister trying to get me to learn how to go do 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 do, trying to figure out those notes, right? As a 12-year-old, and yeah, that's that's kind of how it all came together. With the musical influence of my family and them encouraging me to learn music and me realizing I could. So I started to get into it pretty intensely, to the point where I was skipping school to go home and play my guitar.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
When I was a
Yeah.
kid, I thought NIB and Sunshine of Your Love were the same song
Ha! Wow.
because it was, it was before the time of the internet where you could just go
Right.
listen to them. And then I heard one in a movie and I heard the other in a movie, and I just remember the and then
Yeah.
and then just never heard the full song. Just figure that's part of the same song. And then years
Same
later, I'm
song.
like, oh my gosh, that's Black Sabbath. I had no idea. I thought that was the Cream song.
Wow.
And
We
you
should
bring
try.
up the distorted guitar and Jack Bruce playing the distorted bass on that song.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it all starts somewhere. Yeah, and when you brought up distorted guitar in Helter Skelter, I thought you were going to go with the Kinks because they were real big innovators for the distorted guitar. And what I heard was they poked holes in their speaker, and that's how they got that sound.
Yes, I heard that.
I don't know if
Really? I
that's
didn't know
true. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I didn't know if that's just one of those urban legends, but that was something that I heard. And I heard that from someone. Like I wasn't watching, I'm 60 Minutes on the Kinks, and to get that. No, it was just like, kid on the playground, like, to get that sound, and it really got me. They poked their holes. And so I've just, that's stuck with me for years, and I've never gone to look it up. And I'm sure that if that has been debunked, it is widely available. Or if it's true, there's probably the interview with them, and they're not fighting each other and trying to kill each other, where they're talking about how they came up with that sound.
I'm just wondering what their backup might have been if poking holes in their speakers didn't work and they were in a recording session. What would they do?
Buy a new speaker and just don't poke holes in it this time. I guess we have stick with whatever sound we have.
Yeah. Great story.
Yeah, because you have all these people from that era, and I think a lot of those people are more innovative than they are like actually. I mean, maybe this is a controversial thing to say, but as musicians, it's less that they are good, and it's more that they kind of reinvented the wheel. Because my example for this as kind of a counter is Eddie Van Halen could, without a doubt, play guitar better than most people, and he also came up with a very creative way to play it. And I think in that era, the 60s era, you just had people that basically took what Bill Haley and the Comets did, and then they just put a refreshing spin on it. So it was less that these people are the virtuosos of that era, and they were more just kind of the Steve Jobs, if you would. They just took an idea and found a really creative use for it that is still being used today. Granted, distorted guitars don't sound like You Really Got Me. They sound much closer to the Van Halen version of You Really Got Me. But still, it set the standard for what became hard rock today. Because that people are always chasing those crunchy tones, but it's not just that crunch. Like you want it to sound good, as silly and simple as that sounds. But there's a difference between having distortion and having that Randy Rhoads Blizzard of Oz distortion.
That's for sure. I mean, he had a great tone, great sound in the studio and live too. Yeah.
How much time
Really,
how much time do you spend trying to get that good tone?
I've already got the good tone, so I don't have to spend too much time on it.
Okay. Well, you don't try to find a new one each record.
I actually have managed to do that again because I have changed some equipment, but I do spend time sometimes with gear, with the programming of it and stuff like that. But generally, I've got my sounds, and in the studio where we're doing our new album, I'm not using this rig. I'm using a different new Marshall head that I have now. I've got a lot of Marshall stuff. So and the sound of the studio itself, the room, and the way we're miking it is giving me a good sound without me having to fool around with the amp too much.
Wow.
Who wa-
Yeah.
who was
Go
the
ahead,
guy?
Izzy.
Who was the guy that did Tubular Bells? Is it Mike
Michael
Oldfield?
Oldfield.
Yeah,
Yes.
because he has a really bizarre way of recording where like he's never been satisfied with that song and he's constantly re-recording it.
Really?
I think he still does it. Like every now and then he goes back and revisits it like because the song is like everyone knows it as like the Exorcist song, but that's just a small piece of it. Like the song is a huge epic, but he's
Yeah, it is.
he's so um what's OCD about it that he's never satisfied, so he's constantly like re-recording it or like
Oh,
adding to it.
dear.
Yeah, because
I I can yeah. There is a point where you have to stop, but I understand from an angle of having released something and then listening to it a few years later that I wish I would have done this instead of that, right? But it's his liberty to go at it as often as he wants. Um, Probably not worried about wearing out the tape because he's transferred it all to digital now, so he can work on it forever. But
yeah, yeah. And I don't know if he's doing it from scratch either. That's the one thing that I heard. I thought he restarts everything. Like, oh, I don't
oh
like that I
really?
did it this way. That's what I heard. And again, that could be
Oh
another urban legend that
yeah,
but yeah,
that's a
he
lot of
does
trouble.
yeah, he does revisit it. It's like he's trying to get it down because I released my first release back in August and I was at the like I worked on it for 2 years and I taught myself like mixing and mastering and I didn't teach myself very well. It's about as amateur as it gets. I mean, it doesn't sound terrible, but it there's definitely a lot of places that it needs improvement. But I got to the point where I was just like, I just need to put it out. Like I can't spend the next 5 years getting this perfect. Like I just need to put it out. The next one will be better. That's how I'll do it. But
Right.
I think everyone that is a creator feels like that. Like, you have something done and you're like, oh, this sounds good. Or maybe I could, but then you're just like, okay, I have to put it out. Like, I just can't sit on it because we're our own hardest critics.
Yeah, this is where working with a producer and a good engineer can really step things up to another level, and it can also help draw the line on what's good or what has to be changed or what is really good and don't change it, right? And having a great engineer gets those sounds and the producer making decisions helps things along. Example, um, a girl that's been helping with our management, she asked me to do um, Canada's national anthem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just before there was enough time just before Canada Day, which is July 1st, right? So I had well, fortunately, I already had a version of it in my mind of how I wanted to do it in a metal style. And so I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I went to work in my studio here and I put it all, I have a recording studio here as well. And I went to work on it and I engineered it and produced it. And um, when I listen to it and compared to our other albums, it's nowhere close. You can tell it's lacking in the production and just the engineering sounds that my engineer and producer would have got. Um, but nonetheless, anyone who hears it says, "Well, that's amazing. It's really good, right?" And I listen to it in itself. It's a really cool version, but there's a good chance I may re-record it and have it re-engineered and produced and actually stick it on the next album because it's a pretty cool version that'll be worth hearing if I get it engineered properly.
Hmm.
And that's a big
Yeah.
aspect that a lot of people kind of undersell, especially now, because everything, it's not reel to reel days. It's the
Yeah.
way you can make things sound digitally, like everything sounds amazing. Like, but when you're listening to it,
Yeah.
you know the flaws, like where this is lacking. But average Joe on the street, they're going to hear it. And when was the last time you heard something that had a bad production? Or just like, oh my gosh, can you believe this? Like how this person should be ashamed of themselves for releasing this. It's been a long time.
Oh, that's funny. I hear stuff like that quite often.
Well,
Sorry, not agree with you, but I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you? Is it modern stuff or is it
Yeah.
like okay?
Yeah.
Interesting. What is it? I'm just
Well,
curious to know.
being the fact that just about anybody can
Yeah.
build their own recording studio in their
Yeah.
bedroom, just about anybody can put something out on Spotify, and it's pretty funny. The way music has went. Some people, oh boy, this is a deep subject, but music and metal and rock sounds, we know and love and live by them, right? But the younger generation can't tell the difference of if there's a guitar in that song or there isn't one. They don't even think about it, right? So the stuff that I'm thinking about actually was pretty weird. I also work as a music teacher, and the student brought in the song and said, "Can you teach me this song?" I said, "Well, let me hear it." And we put it on, and I was listening to it, and there was actually a really bad combination of chords over top of each other that was making a mess of the first thing that was going on, and it had bad note combinations and all sorts of stuff. There was some sort of beat in behind it. I'm not really a supporter of any music that's made from beats, but
yeah, I agree.
right. But it's funny. The one thing I can tell you about the band is the girl said the singer, they've got like 200 million streams or something like that,
Okay.
right?
Oh,
Something huge.
jeez.
She goes, the singer said he was going to die by the age of 21, and the whole band has actually all died now, and they all died before they were 21. That's I can't remember the name of the group, right? But I hate to sound cynical, but I went, huh? If I made an album like that, I'd want to be dead too.
Well, okay, so that does touch on something else. Yeah, like when I say like everything sounds perfect, I'm talking about like things that are produced for major labels.
Oh, for sure.
Because like, in the 80s, 70s, 60s, there were plenty of things that were underproduced, especially in the 60s, but that's okay because it was still pretty primitive. But there was a lot of underproduced stuff in the 70s and the 80s. But now, because everything is digital, all it takes is a producer that understands how to use Pro Tools, and then like for basically nothing, they can make anything sound good. Yeah, there's plenty of people on SoundCloud, Spotify, Bandcamp that they record with like Audacity, and like they use like their laptop mic to record things. Yeah, that sounds terrible because everyone can be a musician now. Like it's you no longer have to rent out the recording space. Like you can just do you have a recording device on your phone? Oh, okay. Yeah, you can record a whole album. It won't sound good, but sure, you can do it. But I was specifically talking about like major releases.
Yeah, that's very true. No major label would allow or accept a bad recording and put their name on it. It would have to sound good. Yeah, for sure. But it's pretty funny though. You mentioned that about anybody can make an album. I had this funny experience a number of years back when this beats and automated stuff that you can get from Sony Acid, I think was a program. And a girlfriend of mine, she said, "Oh, my neighbor's son, he made an album." I went, "Huh? Didn't even know he played an instrument. What instrument does he play?" She said, "Well, he doesn't." Well, how do you make an album if he doesn't sing and doesn't play an instrument? How does he know about writing songs? She goes, I don't know. He used this program and he slapped a bunch of stuff together and it's actually pretty good. Went, really?
Sure it is.
Okay.
Okay.
So, well, let me hear it. So I came over and I said, okay, well, let me hear what this is you're talking about. And you could tell that it was made from beats and loops that were
Prepackaged.
Hmm.
and all slammed together in some sort of arrangement where it worked for him for what it was, right? But that's that was like our pre or our intro to what is now AI. I mean, there's
Yeah.
half the song already written for you in bits and pieces. Just put it together however you want.
Sure. We had Andy LaRock on the show a little while back, and he's guitar virtuoso with King Diamond, and he also has his own studio where he's a producer. It's called Sonic Train Studios in Sweden.
Right.
And we asked him like, "Hey, what have been like the changes in recording over the years?" It was really funny because he says, there's an undo button now.
That's so true. That's a handy thing because back when we were using tape, if the engineer hit the record button by mistake, your track's gone, right?
Mm,
If you did a great lead that you worked on for 2 weeks and you finally got
jeez.
it, the engineer accidentally went on the wrong track. It's like, there's a hole in my lead, and it's I need a producer
What
would
do you
like,
do? Yeah.
yeah. He'd say, I'm really sorry, you're gonna have to redo that section.
Oh, and
But
not as sorry as you're gonna be.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And undo button.
the process for recording is just it's so comfortable now because like,
Mhm.
but before because DJ and I have recorded on 4-track it's really grueling. Like you do the same thing over and over. Where now like, you can do it in parts.
Yep.
No one will
Mhm.
tell. Yeah, it's easy. And I don't even think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. Like there are
It is.
definite advantages to technology. Like all
Yeah.
technology is not, it's not a giant
Bullshit.
detriment to mankind. Yeah, we're not Ted Kaczynski over here saying like, well, because of this, it's got to ruin everything. No, no, no. It's made it easier. The real downside is people with no talent at all now have access to making music easily. That
That's the bad part.
yeah,
Mhm.
but the good thing about that is it is easy to avoid it. Like, and it does sound weird. Like you can stay in your own musical bubble. Like people will try to like tell me like, oh, you like this band, you should check this out. And that's how I got exposed to bands like Black Dahlia Murder, Job for a Cowboy, um, The Chariot, like all these bands that I think are just these not good metal bands. Like they don't get it. They're
Yeah.
people that think they get like this is what's heavy. Have you ever heard of the band Swans?
No, no, I haven't.
Okay, so they had an album. I have it written down somewhere. I can't remember, but I saw a piece on it. Like, oh, this album. I think they were either a new wave band or they were like a progressive rock band. They were not a metal band, and they put out
Right.
this album that's supposed to be so heavy, but it's just slow and trudgy. Like it's like take Alice in Chains and like quarter tempo, like not even half tempo. Like it's it's
Okay.
it's
Whoa.
just like it's just slow with distorted power chords. And I'm just like this isn't heavy. This is just it's just slow. Like that doesn't
Right.
make it heavy. Like I like Alice in Chains, but I wouldn't call them heavier than say Megadeth. Like
Mhm.
that's ridiculous. And that's what I think a lot of these newer metal bands like they just don't understand. Like they just do they tune everything down to I guess like low an octave lower than
Drop C.
E.
Yeah.
Like just
Or
like
a
yeah,
seven string guitar.
yeah, just
Yeah.
they go as low as possible. And they just ride on the bottom string and then the drums just double bass and they do these kind of crappy blast beats that don't sound like impressive ones and then people say oh it's heavy Well, you only say it's heavy because you've never heard anything heavy. This is just what you're exposed to.
Yeah, I have something to add to that. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I can use an actual example that I hear. The place we rehearse at is a multi kind of a rehearsal facility where there's other acts playing. And if I step out into the hall, I'll hear what some bands are doing. And of course, most people there have every guitar player's got a Marshall, and you'll hear them playing these heavy chords and these drum beats, but I'll listen to it and I'll say, if this is their idea of a good song, they don't know how to write music yet. They've got some idea of a chord pattern, but it's not good. It's nothing that's going to excite anybody. Maybe they're excited about it because they sound heavy to themselves with that Marshall sound. But as far as a song goes, like it doesn't even get a D, you know? So there's a whole difference between making a heavy sound because you've got a heavy sounding electronics or compared to making a heavy song. I mean, Black Sabbath isn't Black Sabbath just because he had a heavy sound. He wrote great riffs. Tony Iommi wrote great songs. And that's really what music is. It's supposed to be music that is made of chord arrangements that touch your heart and your soul, and you really feel it, right? And there's a big difference between music that can do that and music that doesn't do it at all, right?
I auditioned for one of those bands, and I didn't know anything about them. I answered an ad that said like influences are Death, Cannibal Corpse, and there was a few other bands I'd never heard of, but I was like, okay, I know Death, I know Cannibal Corpse, probably just like throwback death metal band, no problem, I can do that easy. And then I go there, and their tuning, it was the most bizarre tuning I've ever heard.
Really?
It was like open C, but the bottom string was like drop B. It was so weird. Like really, they thought like, oh, we're doing something no one's ever done. But there was nothing musical about what they were doing. They just they had a sound that I would say I've never heard anything like it, but that doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
And just having that heavy guitar sound doesn't mean the songs are heavy. It just means they sound heavy. It's like an alien comes in, like, write some death metal, and then like, yeah, whatever, this is what it sounds like. But it's like you're missing the point. Like those other songs, they follow the same like musical structure. Like they follow these scales. Like all these songs, they follow the scales, so they're all within that. So you can't just string notes together. And that's what I think a lot of these bands would do. They just make noise, and that's not music. Like music is like a very specific thing. It's like if you're saying I'm going to do some chemistry, and then you just start hitting a rock with a hammer. It's like that's not
Right.
chemistry. Right. Like maybe that's like caveman geology, but like you are using instruments, but you're not making music, and that's why I say this: rap is not music.
Yeah.
You got something to say?
Yeah. It's some people call it music, but it lacks a lot of it, especially when it came out, really lacked musical content within it. If we're going to talk about rap for a minute, when I first started hearing rap, it was a drum beat, and it could have been programmed, and some guy rapping, saying not very cool stuff, and there was never any guitars in it, and there was maybe a little keyboard that went tinkle tink 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 tink,
Yep.
something in,
Yep.
and a drum beat, right? And some guy going for like 3 minutes. Okay, I already heard enough there. That's enough, right? I got to hear a guy do that New Year's Eve live at Times Square. I couldn't
Oh,
believe
lucky
it.
you.
Yeah, it blew me away. He was one of their star performers, and he was carrying on just like that. Probably richer than we'll ever be.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Those are the hits.
unbelievable.
Yeah, but yeah, it's what's pushed on everybody. And going back to the Rick Ernst thing, because take everything we can from everyone we know. He said he was there at MTV when they said turn off the metal, and so that means there was an active decision to turn on the rap. Because
Really?
a lot of people, yeah, I mean, it had to be
And it
because
wasn't due to metal not being popular.
yeah,
It was at its
had not
peak.
yeah, it had nothing to do with ratings. Like, and
Mhm.
was like around the time of the Black Album, Countdown to Extinction. Like even though it's not metal, but like still like Facelift, like Alice in Chains, or even like Trent Reznor, Pretty Hate Machine, all that stuff. So heavy music, it's still popular. They just said turn off specifically the metal. So it's not like rock and roll isn't popular. So if someone's saying turn off the metal, then a decision had to have been made to turn on the rap. So there was an active conspiracy to push rap in the mainstream. And I've heard
That's
people
brutal.
I've heard people cope by saying, well, rap is always popular. Like, no, it wasn't. Rap is a relatively new phenomenon. Like there was, Rapper's Delight by Sugar Hill Gang, but most rap that existed in the 80s, like none of you have, even I have heard of it. Like there's so much stuff there that had been going around and just no one was listening to it. Like it wasn't popular. Maybe there was a few kids, standing over a cardboard box with a boombox, breakdancing over it. But for the most part, it wasn't a big movement. And then it becomes everywhere. And almost every top 40 hit now, it's a rap song. If it's not Taylor Swift, it's a rap song. And it's all the same. It literally is all the same. It's not like we go through where we have metal where you have, there's Motorhead and there's Cannibal Corpse and then there's Megadeth and then there's Dark Funeral and Job for a Cowboy, Korn, like Akercock, DRI, like all these different sounding bands, all these subgenres. Rap is all the same. The only difference is this song about slapping your hoe or is it about selling drugs? Like what? Like that's it. There, like where are the rap songs that are about like staying in school and getting a job? I'm sure there might be one or two that do that. Like a DJ found some posts where people were saying a lot of Nicki Minaj's songs are about motherhood. It's like you're lying. All of her songs are about being a whore.
Oh boy. Well, and she's probably one of the better ones. But
That's probably
right?
true.
Yeah. The thing is, what's really even the most disturbing thing about it, as we were talking about loops and whatever, anybody can do that. It's the same with rap. Just about anybody can learn how to rap.
Oh yeah.
I've seen videos, lots of different videos on YouTube of kids that are practicing rap in their backyard. Their neighbors get together and they have like rap contests, right?
The rap battle.
Yeah, rap battle.
So
Battle of the
stupid.
rappers.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's like the modern sharks
Loser
and
gets
jets.
shot in the head.
No, winner gets shot in the head.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Winner gets shot in the head. That's
and then gets a platinum record.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Like, the more grisly your fate, the more infamous you are.
Well, even we've mentioned, Suge Knight now has this extremely highly produced podcast.
Wasn't it like $1 million? The budget was like $1 million per episode.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, and he's in prison for like killing people.
Yeah, like he's in prison. I think for life. I think it's like 35 to life. And he has $1 million podcast from prison.
Yeah, and from he was the head of Death Row Records.
Death Row Records.
Really?
It sounds like a good place to work. Yeah, he's got, and then there's all these other rappers who are releasing albums from prison, and you're like, why do they have laptops? Like, where is the accountability
Not
for
just
like
why do they have
shooting people
laptops, why do they have recording studios?
and getting paid?
Yeah, like they're building studios for people to release rap albums from prison. Have you seen the movie Airheads?
No, I haven't.
So that's a fun movie. It has Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler, and they're these guys
The Lone Rangers.
The Lone Rangers. It takes place in like 1990, 91, and they're like basically an 80s metal band, even though they look like a 90s grunge band. But they're an 80s metal band, and they're just trying to get their big break. So they're doing whatever they can to get their song played. And no record executive will listen to it, and they're never in front of the people that they need to be in front of when they do their show. So they break into a radio station and hold it hostage so they'll play their record, and they end up being live just talking about the music business and their struggles and all this, and then they just become just huge sensations as being these underdogs that have just tried to just get someone to listen to their music. And at the end they go to jail, and then they release an album from prison, but it's a live album. And like that, it is a fun movie. And it was one of those movies. It was like a huge bomb when it came out, and years later it became popular.
It had one of the famous quotes. It was like, who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God? And it's
wrestling
like,
match.
Wrestling match.
The guy says Lemmy, and he goes, "Ha! Trick question. Lemmy is God. He's a cop." It is a good movie. I recommend it.
That's funny, man.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons it bombed was because it came out during a time when they just said stop advertising metal. Like it was a metal movie that they didn't want people to watch it. Because metal didn't go away. Like Iron Maiden Metallica are still huge acts. Like their album releases are still selling a lot. Judas Priest still big.
Yeah.
Everyone is going strong. People like the metal. They just don't know it's there. And that's where I think a lot of these crappy bands came from. They just metal is still popular. Throw something out there. And I think there has been a conscious effort to try to sour metal in the eyes of the public. And that's why they put out stuff like Limp Bizkit and Korn, System of a Down. Like all these bands, they're not metal. They just have distorted guitars. And that's not what makes metal metal.
Right. I agree. And I think that did happen to the business. I like your explanation, because it seems like somebody did hit a switch and all of a sudden turned off the metal and said, this is the crap you guys are going to get. And that's it. And the biggest crime about it is it's over the long term of, say, 20 years, you've got a whole new generation that isn't being influenced by metal anymore. They're being influenced by this rap stuff, dance music and whatever. And a lot of them don't know the difference. If they hear metal, they think it's a strange sound to them, right? Which is really...
Oh,
it's too aggressive. Yeah, I'd rather listen to
Don't you want something mellow? It's like that song is about performing oral sex, okay? That is not something that your 6-year-old needs to be hearing. Like, that's what it's about. Like, do you not hear what they're saying? No, I just like the beat. That's what I always hear. I just like the beat. It's like, really? but you're listening to pornography. Like, that's what it is. And because the music is so simple and so easy to make, it requires no talent to make it. So it doesn't give you any inspiration to pick up an instrument and make your own. Like anyone can do it. Like, your neighbor's kid, like, oh, he made an album, but like, he didn't really make it. Other people made it for him. He just kind of put the pieces together. It's like, it would be the equivalent of someone saying like, hey, look, my son did this beautiful art piece. Do you want to see it? And you go look at it. Like, that's just a jigsaw puzzle he put together. Yeah, like
Right.
he didn't make that. He just the pieces were already there. He just snapped them into place, and that's what all this stuff is. And so you have some lyrics in front of you. Would you care to tell the people this is a song by Lou Phelps? It's a song I think it's ironically called "Average."
Oh God, this. Yeah, there may be some words in here I may have to beep myself on,
Please
but
do. It's a
verse
family
one
show.
by Lou Phelps. He goes, yeah, 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 yeah. Ring, ring, ring on your telephone. Why the you answer? You're gonna give some dome. The type of reason why you all hoes all be alone. What's between your legs be bringing a black boy home? You looking bad, I guess you kind of jealous. Oh, now you're mad, you feeling rebellious. Slap the taste out your mouth, and all you boys still salty. Slap your breath out your mouth, and all you black boys still talking. If it wasn't for the pigs, I'd put you back in your place. If it ain't for some Rex, get these shoes out of my way. Hmm. Uh, Want platinum plaques, selling millions be the dream. I can't push it to the limit. Tony Montana type of way. Baby, I can see the future. No funny hats. Chasing green and these bays. Now I'll admit that's with my pack. If it wasn't for the dream, that probably wouldn't be no Bram. I should probably change my name from Lou Phelps to Lou Bram. You bitch. Well,
Bravo.
I just sang my first rap song.
Yeah,
See, anyone can do it.
Yeah.
People, if you have no talent, you can always be a rapper. Yeah,
Man.
and I found this guy. This was on something from okplayer.com. 13 new hip hop and R&B albums you should listen to right now. And then I just found Lou Phelps, okay, average, and then just I read those lyrics. It was the first thing that came up, and I just thought, okay, like I'm just waiting for the day when I'm like proven wrong. I'm like, wow, this is like actual good poetry. Like I can't believe how well these words are strung together. Because for all the criticism I do give of Metallica, I remain consistent that James Hetfield is a very good lyricist. I genuinely like his lyrics. And I've never heard a rap song that's really wowed me. Maybe there's been like someone can link something like, "How? What about this?" Okay, like maybe there's a few out there where you can say like, "Okay, that's some pretty impressive poetry," but that's not the case anymore. Like this is just like it's emotional ranting, and it's like like a child. It's a child's like temper tantrum that is like contextualized into like adult quasi poetry, because that's all it pretty much is it's like, have you ever seen it's like beat poetry where people just talk like this, they just kind of get mad but they don't rhyme about things, like it's like that. They used to have it in the 90s. It was a thing they would do at coffee shops, and that's kind of what rap has become. There was only one thing in there that sounded like an actual poetic rhyme. Everything else, it was just like the ramblings of a madman. Like if someone was on the corner talking to themselves, like screaming, that the words you just read is what I expect them to say.
Yeah, it's like somebody telling a bad story about a bad scene, and they're proud of it, and they're kind of living that life, and it's encouraging everybody that's listening to it to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad influence. I don't want to talk like a
hooligan
parent that's say a parent that's trying to guide his children in the proper direction, but this stuff is a bad influence on kids. I mean, look at what they're saying. None of the metal we listen to ever came close to anything horrible like this. You know, even when you listen to like Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, you hear Ozzy Osbourne. He's preaching about God in Master of Reality. He's not saying anything in supporting Satan. He's actually preaching about Christ in Master of Reality. If you listen to Lord of this World, would you like to see the Pope on the end of the rope? Do you think he's a fool? No, I've seen the light and I've changed my ways at the end of my days. It's he had a good message in that song.
Well,
Matter read it.
well, and even go like No Bone Movies is like a song of about it's an anti-pornography song. And on the inverse of that, when you think of like the dirty metal songs, a classic example, Kiss, Lick It Up. It's all metaphors, or even Cherry Pie by Warren. It's metaphors.
Right.
Like we as adults know what they're talking about, and maybe a kid shouldn't be hearing that because they wouldn't know what they're saying. Like we don't need to be hearing kids talking about these euphemisms because they don't know it. But this is difference. Like this isn't euphemism. Right. This is just like saying horrible things, and it's promoted so kids think that like this is a cool thing to aspire to be.
Yeah, I do think it's really important what we put like in our minds, what you ingest. Like there is that energy, and that's that rap. It is incredibly negative. It doesn't. Negative. It is not going to make you more creative. Like I hate to say it, but those lyrics did not make me go out and say, you know what, I gotta, double down and really like learn
Hit
something
the books.
Today.
You gotta. This makes me want to go build a coffee table. I think I need to refinish my bathroom. Like I'm really inspired.
Yeah, let me learn a new skill or pick up a guitar or let me become a lyricist or a poet.
Well, and it also just shows you don't need to be creative to be a lyricist. Like you can say whatever you want. Like as long as you're saying like, hoes and guns and Captive Fool, that like, oh yeah, I can do that. Anyone can do that. Like Radiohead had the song "Anyone Can Play Guitar," but I mean, it's a little ironic statement to it. But anyone actually can rap, especially now. Like you get a program that has all these programmed loops into it. You can probably get like any kind of, I don't know. There's probably stuff out there that will just generate like some kind of like keyboard and some drum beat. And you can just ring, so whatever,
and put digital effects on the vocals and
auto tune it, and then boom, that's a #1 hit. And it's a #1 hit because that's what's broadcast out there. Like when you see like these people, they're like, oh, it's got 500 million plays on Spotify. Well, that's because they put it on the front page, so everyone who opens Spotify, they now they see it. Like when I was in high school. The first metal band that I was really introduced to that really made me go, I need more of this, was Megadeth. Like I'd known Iron Maiden, I'd known Judas Priest, I'd known Motorhead, and they were bands like I knew Danzig, like I knew them, but I didn't really get into it until someone's like, here, check this out. And it was killing as my business. And I was like, oh, this is something else. So I went out of my way to find bands like that. So I found King Diamond, I found Testament, I found Exodus. Like I found bands like that, Unleashed, Mayhem, Immortal. Like I found them. Now people don't think about things like that because everything is put in front of them. So you open Spotify and you're not even thinking like, okay, I want to find something like this. And I remember a guy made a post on Facebook years ago, and this is how old it was. The guy posted that I have Frank Sinatra on my list, and Spotify recommended Justin Bieber to me. Which one? Justin Bieber's nothing like Frank Sinatra, obviously, but if they're promoting it, that means they want people to know about Justin Bieber and to listen to Justin Bieber. And if you think that it stops with Justin Bieber, you're crazy. Because I was told by okplayer.com that I need to listen to Lou Phelps right now. That's what it told me. And I mean, I haven't listened to the song. I just looked at the lyrics. But hearing those lyrics, there's no way a song can wow me. Like there's no way the music can make me go, you know what? Those lyrics, I guess they were just an excuse to slap a song together. So do you know the band Obituary?
Yep.
So originally, like, they have the vocals, but originally they didn't have lyrics. Like it was just, you just needed something to keep the song together. Like you need to have those vocals.
The
Well, we
vocal
don't.
rhythm and a melody with the vocal. Minus
Yeah,
the
but
Yeah.
no one could understand what he was saying. So yeah, they just didn't have lyrics. But so maybe this is the equivalent. Like where just write anything down, regardless of context or rhymes. Just write the first thing that comes to mind. Like, yeah, hoes and pimps and like that. They got the one track mind. But
yeah.
But this is the state of music now, and it's not music. And I do believe that they actively tried to kill metal, but the problem is metal is the peak of rock and roll. It will not get better than that, and that's why you still have people that have admiration for all these legacy acts, and two, you have people popping up sounding like those. Sure, there's plenty of people right now as we're talking and as you're all listening they've listened to a song like this and they're like, yo, I can be a rapper. Of course, but they're gonna give it up once they come to the next TikTok trend where people they listen to Electric Eye and they're like, I'm gonna play guitar and I'm gonna play guitar like that. I want to do that, and they're gonna do that for the rest of their life. Like your brain gets stimulated when you play an instrument.
Yeah.
And when you hear music like that, because there is something about sticking to a scale that really does make you more intelligent. I don't know what it is, but I know they found people that listen to classical music, their IQ does go up, especially if they play piano. So if you're dumb, listen to that.
Well, they make babies play or listen to classical music. I think that's like been proven. If you play classical music for your like newborn, it does have some like effect in a positive way.
Yeah, and I also heard the story that I read the Steven Tyler book, how him as a little boy, 2 years old, would his dad was a piano player, and he would sit underneath the piano and listen to his dad play.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, and he said he'd do it every day, and he'd try and find the notes with his voice as his dad was playing, and
Oh, wow.
that's how he developed his voice. He's a fantastic singer, and
Sure.
You can see where he really learned the harmony. And back to sticking with the scale, like I'm also a licensed music teacher, and I know all about scales and why they work, right? And the modes and all that stuff. And there is a talk about like the science or chemistry of music. There's just certain things that work or don't go together, right? And so when you do know a bit about theory or scales and note combinations, it makes a big difference in what you're going to write.
Sure.
Yeah. You can't just slap notes together. Like let's say you start like you just hit an A chord, like you just hit one. Well, now what? You can't pick something that doesn't have A in it. You gotta make it built around that, and then now you got A, C. Okay, all right. Do I do a pentatonic, or maybe I can get a little darker? I can do something harmonic, or maybe I want to do something in whatever. But once you hit that C chord, you're probably not doing A major. So that your songs have to follow an actual musical science.
Yes, they do to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course.
The listener can't take it.
Yeah,
it won't go too far.
It does make you feel uncomfortable. So like they do have to follow the science, and that also shows intelligence,
right?
Because you have to use your brain to write these songs, and you have to be able to use your brain to understand these songs. So if you hear something that just sounds like chaos and it sounds good to you, well, your brain is broken. Like something's wrong with you. But you hear something like like you hear Mozart and you're like, oh yes, I get this. This appeals to me. Your brain works. And and just go a step further, then you hear "Hallowed be Thy name," and just go, "Oh, this appeals to me." Like, okay, your brain understands the patterns, and that rubs off on people.
Yeah.
Like, metal is timeless. It's basically the next step of classical music. It's classical music with the distorted guitar, essentially.
I love that. That's a beautiful thing to say.
Yeah,
Really.
and it's the best way to put it. Like, there, if you had like advanced AI that said like make a metal version of Mozart, and it probably would sound like Alexander the Great or Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner or something like that. Because that's their those, like "Hallowed be Thy name" is, Iron Maiden's fifth or whatever. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No bad combination of notes there.
No,
No.
and it's put together perfectly, like everything, and there's a lot of changes, and there's a lot going on. See, Number of the Beast is not my favorite Maiden album. In fact,
Right.
it's one of my least favorite Maiden albums.
Wow.
Yes, but I think that just goes
Still
to show
a great album.
Exactly that. But
That's the
that's
thing.
kind of my point of how Iron Maiden. Like, if you had to, there is a best band of all time. What's Iron Maiden? My favorite is Somewhere in Time. Then it's Killers.
Oh yeah, Killers too. I saw that tour actually with Paul
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, he was great.
I'm sure.
And my next favorite is Brave New World.
Oh really?
Yes. See, that was an album why someone played The Mercenary for me. I'm like, oh, this actually sounds good. I'm kind of surprised. And then just listening to the album from the beginning, just like starting with The Wicker Man and just the ending, the thin line between love and hate.
Oh,
Just
that's a great one.
all the songs are so good. And like, you have your big Iron Maiden epics, and then you have your punchier, just traditional metal songs. It's such a great album. Like, Number of the Beast is, every song on it is good, and it just like, great way to start, great way to end. It's perfect. But everything that they've done, really, with the exception of the two Blaze Bayley records and Fear of the Dark, I haven't listened to the most recent one. I know a lot of people don't really like Senjutsu very much. They think it's just kind of Iron Maiden showing their age, which is fine. Like, they've earned the right to not have an album that sounds as good as something that they did in the 80s.
And I appreciate that they still are putting out albums,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like Nico McBrain is what, 74 years old?
Yeah, he's born in 49, yeah. And he's still playing the way he was.
Sure.
Yeah. So I do have a lot of admiration, because Kiss is going the Avatar route, where they're just gonna digital projections of them on a screen, whatever. They're old. They've been around forever. They can't keep touring. I mean, they're not in bad shape. I mean, Paul Stanley can't sing anymore, but Gene Simmons still can.
Yeah.
But eventually you will have to have a farewell tour at some point,
or several.
Well, no, they always have several, but one is going to be, one will be real this time, I swear.
Okay.
I wonder if that was it.
I've had that same thought. Like, it seems like that might have been the last one, but who knows anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Michael, I know you said you're working on another new album.
Yes.
Is there possibly a tour that you might do in 2024? Or what are your, maybe, it is the new year, and Happy New Year. What are some of your, not necessarily resolutions, but some of your goals for you personally, and musically for the year?
I'd love to do a tour. I was working on one for the southern states a little while ago, but some problems happened with it and it kind of fell apart. Now I'm looking at I'm talking with a company in Europe about maybe getting a European tour.
Nice.
And in the meantime, we're working on a new album right now anyways, so that's going to keep me busy, but we'll do some shows around town while we're recording and trying to get a tour organized.
Excellent. Yeah, I definitely want to see you live. I'm willing to travel
To Canada?
overseas, if you will.
I don't know if overseas of Canada.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Or
Oh,
across
good
the
flight.
Great Lakes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Over the lakes. But maybe when it warms up a little bit, 'cause that's it seems it's a bit cold this time of year.
No, you can just
Yeah.
ice skate across the Great
Oh, okay.
Lakes. That'll be fun.
Oh,
How far is that?
yeah. The Lake Huron actually did freeze over right over from one side to the other a number of years back, which is pretty phenomenal. That's a big body of water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if that lake freezes, you probably are not going to be able to survive the unsheltered travel of ice skating across it. So maybe
Oh my
don't do
God.
that one.
It's icebergs for
It's
sure.
iceberg.
Yeah.
It would be cool to try though.
Hmm. Dangerous.
Yeah, I
Bring your
don't
rubber
really.
dinghy just in case.
Yeah, I don't do the cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
My weak California body is like, nope. I don't do seasons, you know.
That's great. I wish I didn't do them either. I can handle palm trees year round.
Oh, come out anytime.
We'd love to get down to LA and
Oh
do some
heck yeah,
shows there.
that would be
My
great. No,
publicist that works with me is from San Diego.
okay,
So
not too far.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like an hour north of San Diego, hour south of LA, so I'm right in the thick of it, as they say.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Well, if we get down there, I'll be sure to let you know that we're setting something up.
Yeah, no, excited to hear because I am a fan. You know, I'm not just saying that. I need to listen to more of your stuff, but that instrumental album, man, I was not expecting how good it is because like I said, it's not, you know, no one wants to hear just crazy solos that are kind of like chaotic, but everything went together. Like the riffs, soloing, like everything was just as near perfect as you can get it. I mean, you should really be proud of that. It is incredible.
Thank you very much. I I let my guitar be my voice in those songs. I made sure that it was singing a melody to the listener, just as it was a singer, but it's notes without words.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably the perfect way to describe that.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it like it was a melody that people could relate to, even though there were no lyrics. The guitar was the voice.
No doubt. Yeah, now I got to put it in my car and go on a nice drive, you know. 'Cause that seems like the perfect music. It was fine just in my room listening in my headphones, but yeah, I think that it'll take it another level listening in my car and just
Yeah,
cruising out. Yep.
cruising music.
Cruising music. Yep.
Go down to go to Nevada find a spot where there's no speed limits.
There you
And
go.
just let the record take you.
I could do that.
Sounds great. Makes me
Yeah.
want to go for a ride too.
Heck yeah.
Get
Oh,
get your snowmobile ready.
Yeah,
oh gosh, yeah.
it's snowmobile and my helmet with speakers in it.
Yeah, surround sound.
Be cool.
I think that'd be pretty sweet. So Michael, this has been great. I've had a blast. This has been a lot of fun. You are a great man, a great musician. Uh, Anything that you want to plug for the people at home?
Well, number one, I'd say let's keep metal strong. Um, I have a fear for metal, just in regards to the stuff we were talking about with the rap, the music with no guitars, the switch that was hit on turning off the metal. I'm glad it's still alive, but we really do have to teach people that this is rock and roll, and rock and roll should never die, right? And remember to look for MJM on any of your platforms that you can that you like listening to. There will be new music, and look for the new version of "Live It Up" with Tim Ripper Owens of Judas Priest on on the MJM song "Live It Up." It's coming out in January.
So we'll
And-
we'll put all those links, of course, in the description below.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, we'll
Yep.
make it easy for everyone to find you, and because people need to hear you. You know, you're Canada's best known secret. Like I said, it's a travesty, if you will, because
Yeah.
it's incredible. I really appreciate your career and everything you've done. Thank you for teaching, the youth as well. That's really important to have someone like you out there. And I wish there were more Michael J. Millers out there, but I'm glad you're there doing your part. And, thank you again for joining us. You've been an absolute pleasure. And,
Well, don't forget, what song would you
Oh, yeah.
like to close this out with?
Oh, how about we put on Could It Be
could it be?
By Michael J. Miller?
by MJM?
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
It's been a pleasure having you guys host the show, and a pleasure answering all your questions and all our interaction back and forth. You guys are wonderful to speak with, and I appreciate you having me on your show.
no, thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, and thank you for being such a great sport as well. And for everyone and you, Michael, please stay safe out there.
And come back anytime.
Yes.
Love to. Thanks very much.